It felt like fate. Meeting him was like a scene straight out of a movie. Our eyes met across the crowded room. He was charming, successful, and oh so attentive. Right from the start, he showered me with compliments and grand gestures. I felt like I was the only woman in the world. He had this uncanny ability to make me feel incredibly special. He would hang on to my every word. He seemed genuinely interested in everything about me. Looking back, the warning signs were subtle. He often steered conversations back to himself. His stories always painted him in a positive light. At the time, I dismissed these as minor quirks. I was blinded by the fairy tale he was so expertly crafting. Our relationship quickly intensified. He was everything I thought I ever wanted. His confidence was intoxicating, and his charm was disarming. I was drawn to his ambition and drive. He had big dreams, and he made me believe we could conquer the world together. He introduced me to his world, filled with lavish gifts and extravagant dates. I was swept away by the whirlwind romance. He made me feel like a princess. It was intoxicating, but slowly, almost imperceptibly, the dynamics began to shift. His compliments became backhanded. His jokes were often at my expense. He would criticize my clothing choices or my taste in music. At the time, I rationalized it as him wanting the best for me. I told myself he just wanted me to improve. The more time we spent together, the more I noticed a disconnect between his words and actions. He would promise the world, but rarely follow through. His grand gestures often felt empty and lacked genuine emotion. He became increasingly controlling. He didn't like it when I spent time with my friends or family. He'd make me feel guilty for wanting to pursue my own interests. It was like he wanted to isolate me from everyone else in my life. I started to see glimpses of a darker side. He had a hair-trigger temper. He would explode over minor inconveniences. He'd then turn on the charm, apologizing profusely and showering me with affection. The cycle of idealization, devaluation, and discard was in full swing, though I didn't recognize it at the time. Section 4. Navigating the emotional labyrinth. The emotional roller coaster took a toll. I constantly felt inadequate and insecure. His words would cut deep, leaving me questioning my worth. I was walking on eggshells, terrified of triggering one of his outbursts. The man I fell in love with seemed like a distant memory. In his place was someone manipulative and emotionally unavailable. I felt trapped, lost in a labyrinth of my own emotions. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. I couldn't reconcile the man I loved with the man who was hurting me. I started withdrawing from friends and family. I was ashamed of what was happening and afraid of what people would think. I felt like a prisoner in my own relationship. Section 5. Finding my voice. The turning point came when I stumbled upon an article about narcissism. As I read through the traits, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. It was a terrifying realization, but it was also incredibly validating. It gave a name to the patterns of behavior I had been experiencing. I started researching, reading books, and listening to podcasts. The more I learned about narcissism, the more empowered I felt. Knowledge truly became my power. I started to understand that I wasn't to blame for his behavior. It was a long and painful process, but I finally found the courage to leave the relationship. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but also the most liberating. Section 6. Hope after the heartbreak. Healing from the trauma of narcissistic abuse takes time and effort. I sought therapy, which provided me with a safe space to process my emotions and develop healthy coping mechanisms. I reconnected with friends and family, rebuilding the support system I had neglected. The experience left me broken but not shattered. It taught me the importance of self-love, setting boundaries, and recognizing red flags in relationships. I learned to prioritize my own well-being and to never again silence my inner voice. If you see yourself in my story, please know that you are not alone. There is hope, and healing is possible. Reach out for help, educate yourself, and remember that you are worthy of love and respect. Your journey to recovery starts today.